Nice round of applause. Speakers are great. Sean last night was fantastic. I love it when people just speak the truth, you know, and tell you things that make sense and don't just try to pitch product just to pitch product, but actually show you how things can actually work. But let's go back a little bit to 2000. I come from a really weird background. I thought I was going to be the next Steven Spielberg. I was going to make movies, and I actually went to Hollywood, directed commercials, did some of that, had some success. But the internet really came along, and for me in the mid-90s and towards the end of the 90s. And I absolutely just fell in love with this new medium, if you will. And as a filmmaker, really all we want is an audience. You know, I don't care if it was my mom and my dad to watch the little film that I made. But the internet gave me an audience like never before. And I was able to develop applications or little things, and people would use them. And then I would get feedback. So a new love kind of evolved for me with technology. I really like to think that I'm a salesperson first, and then really a product guy second, or I don't know which way it goes. But I usually find businesses and I try to solve problems, and that's where my entrance into the dealership world really began. I was watching everything fall apart in the dot-com world. It was a huge bust in around 2000, right? Remember when we went into, after 9/11, all of the companies was Grocery Works, Peapod, and there was all these crazy companies that were spending hundreds of millions of dollars with no business plans, trying to just get there first. And so amongst all the clutter, you kind of pull back the curtains and you say, what is the internet? What does it really do? At the end of the day, it's one computer connected to another computer, sharing information. And if you look at the automobile industry, it's extremely archaic back then. People hated buying cars in person. And there were these early adopters, and there was eBay, right? So I'm looking at this going, what am I seeing as a shift in the automotive landscape? In the old way, all of my big dealerships, and I'm from Dallas, all the big dealerships in Dallas were focused on dealership-first marketing. We're Big Billy Bob Ford. We have a rootin' tootin' sale this weekend. Come on out, and we'll spin you around a few times, and we're going to put you in the car that we want you to have. Well, the internet flips that completely on its back and makes it vehicle first, dealership second. So I looked at that and I said, oh my gosh, for the first time, I can open a dealership. And we started in a jet hangar. You know, I did have a dream, by the way, that I could sell poolside, cars and actually talk to people, and the internet was going to, make me this multi-millionaire and not have to actually see a customer. But we soon find out customers do actually want to touch the car, so that's a different story. But we started in one jet hangar, and I realized very early on that for little or no money, with good people and good process, we could market our cars and distribute them online. And we started with eBay before there was an eBay Motors. So it was Beanie Babies and like our car. And there were so many early adopters back in the day that I was selling over 80% of our vehicles out of state. That sounds terrible for a franchise guy, but I was an independent highline sales. And the funny part was is we were buying all the trade-ins from local franchise dealers. It's crazy. A Mercedes gets traded into a Porsche dealership. They didn't want to sell it to the Mercedes dealership across the street because they don't like each other. We're supposedly Switzerland. We would buy the car, and we mark it up. Back in the day, it was wonderful, $4,000 or $5,000, and it would sell in 5 or 10 days. But what I quickly learned at that point was technology had to become part of my life, as well as process and people, because if I was going to be efficient, remember, I didn't have financing to make money. I didn't sell gap insurance and all these other warranty products. And if you remember back then, there was a company called People First that was doing credit, and it became Capital One. So all of our customers could get approved online with a blank check. So I didn't have that ancillary revenue opportunity, so I needed to move cars quickly and efficiently. So we would buy a vehicle from a local franchise dealer, and for some reason they would sell it to us, geniuses. They weren't really online. We'd buy the car, immediately it would go to detail, right out of detail, even if it had a check engine light and everything, right out of detail, I pay with a draft. Well, I want to get it online and sold before the draft hits. You gotta, and that's the other thing that you always think about it, when it's your money, you run your business a little differently. And you start thinking about ways to be more efficient and make more sense of your time. So we started having to build some software because we needed to get the vehicles online quickly, and we needed to get them on eBay. And eBay was very difficult to work with from loading individually cars. But we soon found out that there was an auto trader, right? They came around, eCarList.com, and we could go through a myriad of websites, and there's thousands of them, Craigslist, and all these wonderful things that you should and shouldn't be a part of. But the point is, you still needed a system to put vehicles in, distribute it out, and be efficient with it. So we developed our own software platform to do that. I'll fast forward just a little bit. It was 2005, where all those dealerships we were buying the vehicles from, they finally woke up and said, Lynn, what the hell are you doing over there? We got to selling over 120 cars a month. We were actually profiled in Forbes magazine. And we had 5 jet hangars at that point, and literally 5 employees, and that included the title and admin person. And that was efficiency. It was photography first. It was writing rich descriptions. It was creating great pricing. We didn't have pricing tools back then, okay? We actually went on the web to find out who would we be competing with, because the internet customer is looking at those vehicles. And I'm not going to digress. It's a whole other conversation. But the point is, we had to be extremely efficient, use technology and tools to make our lives flow a little bit. So all of a sudden, BlackBerry and all sorts of things came around, and we started looking at new ways. And I remember it was one time that we created this piece of software. I'm only telling you this because it's about figuring out ways to use technology to solve a problem, not just use it to interfere in your daily lives. But I was selling so many cars to people I never met. And it could have been a 15-year-old kid telling me he's going to buy this Porsche or Ferrari or something, and I wanted to know if it was a guy real on the phone. Plus, at 8 o'clock at night, I sure didn't want to have to drive back to a dealership, fill out paperwork and stuff like that. So we created an all-digital paperwork system that could be initiated right from a BlackBerry. All I needed was an email address. And what was fantastic about that is I could just give me your email, Mr. Customer, send them an email, and from an internet perspective, if he didn't fill out his name, information, like his own buyer's order online, we knew we didn't have a deal. And so what was fascinating was kind of like the old Foursquare, but digitally. You know how you do the deal, and you say, well, look, do you agree that this is a pretty good thing so I can go to my manager? Would you buy at this if we could get it done? That was my digital commitment, if you will. And so anytime, day or night, I knew that this customer was in the hook, because if they were willing to give me their name, their phone number, their social, whatever that information that I needed to complete the deal, we knew they were a buyer. We had about a 95% close rate once they initiated that. So at midnight, once the email came back, it would say customer activity notification. I knew we had them. We even built it to where when an eBay buy now occurred, if it was at midnight, it sent the email. They feel emotionally connected and actually bought. They're like, wow, something's happening. Our website immediately said car sale pending, right? And then they came back to us. It was pretty cool stuff. So we were always developing this software, never really